from Southern Maryland's weather leader. This is a JB Weather Report.
All right, and good evening, everybody. I'm forecaster John Bordash with you in the JB Weather Center this evening, with you to chit-chat about snow potential, our first real winter storm threat of the winter season. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let me know if you can hear me just fine in the comments. I don't want to get like 5 minutes into this and nobody apparently can hear me. But assuming that all is good, we have a lot to cover here, and I'm sure that you've been hearing plenty of discussion over the last several days about this winter storm potential. If for nothing else, your weather apps on your phones may have been going crazy with this potential. So I'm very excited to kind of get into it and see what we got going on, and it seems like people are all good to go to hear me. Welcome in. I'm forecaster John Bordash. So over the next, who knows how long this is going to last, right? Couple of minutes, half hour, potentially longer. These have been known to go forever because, as my students can tell you, I do love to talk. But we're going to kind of set up what we got going on. We're going to look at the forecast. We're going to look at this winter storm potential and kind of outline the potentials that exist out ahead. Now, I know I will need to repeat this a couple of times here throughout this live broadcast, as is always the case as people jump in and out. But I want to start just by saying there is no way any credible meteorologist is going to be able to tell you what is going to be falling in your specific location 5 days out from a winter weather event. I posted about this earlier today on socials, and I think it bears mentioning here as well. My students were like, Mr. Bordash, we're going to see like 18 to 20 inches of snow. Now, keep in mind, we're in Pennsylvania where I'm teaching, not Maryland, so I don't even think we'll see that much. But they were so gung-ho and wanting to know what we're going to see, and I gave them the example of, it's like me asking you, what do you think you're going to be eating as a snack at 2 p.m. on Saturday? Well, plot twist, you don't know. You might have an idea. Maybe, as the students gave some examples today, maybe I'm going to eat Cheetos or Doritos or maybe like a cookie or something. You may have an idea of what you might want to have as a snack, but you don't know for sure. You got to see what's happening in the moment. We got to see what Mother Nature and the atmosphere want to cook up. So we're a bit too far out, but we could definitely talk about those potentials. Let's kind of get here right into the forecast. Let's first start here with our 7-day forecast, which kind of shows you that we have a very active period on tap, and we are going really into the thrush of winter. We had December feature below average temperatures and a little bit of snow. And we were like, okay, winter's here. January, though, especially this, end half of January, these next 2 weeks may feature, some of the most extreme cold we've seen so far this year, so far this winter season, and potentially some of our bigger snow threats we've seen thus far, and kind of coming up this weekend. In the short term, Wednesday and Thursday look very quiet. We're looking at, I'm hesitant to put mild on a day that's below average, 41, but in comparison to everything else, it is going to feel mild by the afternoon. We will be looking at a cold start, though, on Wednesday. Before we really warm things up on Thursday, we go above average. I don't know. It'll be nice. Mostly sunny conditions. From there, we see things start to change a little bit on Friday, and I don't want to sleep on Friday. You might not be seeing a lot of people talking about this, but we are going to have a small little blip of atmospheric energy that's going to move overhead Friday afternoon going into Friday evening, moving across portions of Virginia before quickly sliding out to sea. This may promote the idea of some rain showers or maybe even some snow showers on Friday. I'm not too confident in it just yet, and I can show you our modeling a little bit later on. But Friday, I would be aware for that potential of just a spotty flurry, disconnected from the weekend snow potential that really looks to center there on Sunday. And look at those temperatures. We are going into the 20s. We are going to struggle to break freezing for a few days here. Low temperature Tuesday, 9 degrees. We are definitely seeing things kind of get cold. Now, you may be thinking, JB, I am here for the snow forecast. What are you talking about? And let's get right into it. This is what I threw together getting home from school today. This is kind of a look at what the Weather Prediction Center is thinking is likely, and kind of where we could be looking at some higher probabilities of snow. This does not show snow potential. It's not like I could say that dark blue zone is going to get, a bajillion inches of snow and the light blue area is going to see only like an inch or two. I can't say that. What I can say, though, is that area there in dark blue, that goes to Roanoke, Charlotte, Virginia Beach, just south of southern Maryland, looking there, southern parts of Virginia and North Carolina. At this point, that is where the Weather Prediction Center is saying you have a 70 to 90% chance of seeing at least 2 inches of liquid that could fall as winter weather, either snow or ice. that it gets technical, but that's just where you have high chances to see winter weather. That area there is shaded in that like medium-ish kind of blue that represents moderate. It encompasses almost the entire state of Maryland, going back down towards Memphis and Dallas. We're talking 50 to 70% chances of seeing winter weather. Lighter blue, that's about a 30 to 50% chance, and then that like grayish whitish color is less than a 30% chance. Still something worth mentioning, but it's really going to be this area here, I think, across parts of the mid-south extending into the lower mid-Atlantic that may be in the potential bullseye of this system. Now, we have a couple of options on the table for what we could be looking at with this. And I really kind of boil this down into two options, but meteorology is a lot more complex and pretty graphics than what I can do with two arrows, right? There's a lot of different solutions and a lot of moving pieces at play here. Nevertheless, take a look up top. You see cold air will be diving down from the south. And I want to see if I can't just load up in here a graphic I posted earlier today. And I should have done this before getting in here, but I think it does a good job of showcasing what we got. I think that reset the entire slide, but I think that's okay. Let's move forward here, and let's move forward one more time. We're going to be looking at two areas of high pressure sitting overhead later on this week. They're going to develop. These will be delivering that fresh injection of Arctic air as we head into the weekend. And you can see air at high pressure over Detroit, another one sitting over the Hudson River Valley. Those will be driving cold air to the south, and that's going to help promote the idea of potentially seeing winter weather as an area of low pressure tracks to the south. This could definitely set up a wide swath of snow. To get technical, this is what we call an overrunning event. What that means is that you have an area of low pressure that's throwing moisture to the north, and that moisture is overrunning the cold air. To me, this doesn't seem to be like a typical nor'easter like we're looking at like 2009, 2010, 2016, 2003, if you remember the President's Day blizzard, 1996, that blizzard. I don't think we're looking at something to that degree, at least in terms of track. Those were typical nor'easter storms. This looks really like a southern slider that just has a lot of precip to work with, and you can kind of tell that by the storm orientation. But modeling's going to kind of waffle here. How strong are those highs to the north? Because however strong those are, it'll dictate two things. A, how cold do you get? And B, how far north is that storm allowed to come? Again, option one would allow that to come a little bit further to the north, kind of focusing impacts on the mid-Atlantic, or option two is going to be kind of stunting all of this down to the south. Let's go ahead and take a look at each of these options and really get into what they would look like. If we take a look at a northern track, and this is the latest run of the European model, this has the storm kind of moving across the Carolinas, sitting off Cape Hatteras before headed out to sea. This would promote that idea of snow really focusing there on the mid-Atlantic with a big-time ice storm across the Carolinas and parts of the southeast, shown there in the pink. The cold air source here, not necessarily as strong and maybe even displaced a little bit further up to the north. What this would allow, though, is for this storm, A, to come further north, but potentially to slow down a bit. Maybe with this storm in this kind of a solution, we're looking at more of a Sunday afternoon event. Initially, this looked like potentially a Saturday and a Sunday event, but now we're kind of mainly focusing on Sunday. And if this storm is really allowed to slow down and maybe could even kind of morph a little bit into more of a nor'easter, this might be able to linger impacts into Monday. In this scenario, you would be looking at significant impacts across the mid-Atlantic. Again, too early to show details. I was even up here in Pennsylvania, I'm able to watch some of the DC news stations, and I see a couple of them are already showing some snow maps and model outputs. I don't know if that does anyone any good. And I wouldn't say that you're going to be looking at like 1, 2, 3 feet of snow, but this is where you're going to be getting those like crazy snow totals from. If you're like, JP, my weather app says I'm going to see 16 to 24 inches. This would be why, because it's showing a northern track. However, we have a southern track that's just as likely, where that high pressure is allowed to be A, stronger, and B, further south. It kind of sets up shop over New York, getting down into Pennsylvania, shunning that cold air down to the south and really stinting that storm just kind of off the Georgia, South Carolina coast. That might still bring snow to the DMV. But as you can see, it puts Washington there right on the edge. Southern Maryland, yeah, you get into some snow, but we're not talking about widespread, several inches of snow. This is kind of like one of those fringe events, and the highest totals are going to be there focused down to the south. If this were to occur, we're only looking at minor impacts. It is a much quicker storm, primarily Sunday morning. definitely impacts that could linger in our region, especially for our southern zone south of DC. But you're going to see the highest impacts definitely to the south with higher totals. I put this together just a little bit before coming on live here with you on. I think it's a nice way to show what we're looking at. If we see that southern solution verified, this is a general look at how the snow would fall. I, again, don't want to show you snow totals and get you all excited, but that area there in purple would be significant snow. And when I'm thinking significant snow, I'm thinking at least half a foot, at least. Significant snows really focused there across parts of the deep south, northern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, getting through Tennessee, and in North Carolina, putting, Charlotte, North Carolina there right on the edge if you need a pinpoint marker, and kind of bringing it up right to about Richmond, Virginia. South of there, lots of icing. North of there, though, you're getting moderate snow potentially into the DC area, but we are not looking at, big totals. We're looking at less than potentially half a foot of snow if that were to occur, and then maybe only an inch or two in those minor snow areas on Sunday. This would be with that southern solution. But what about that northern solution? This is the one that is, again, producing those big snowfall outputs. And just take a look at that red line with area low pressure. Look, we're going to shift this about 150 miles north. And look what that does. It's going to put the DMV in that bullseye for significant snows. At least half a foot in this kind of a solution, probably more. I'm hesitant to say a lot more, but definitely more than half a foot. That would kind of get there, kind of sneak maybe into southern Pennsylvania, getting into the Philly metro area. In this kind of a solution, DC to Philly, maybe even like Richmond to Philly is kind of that sweet spot on the I-95. Moderate snows potentially up to New York, and then minor snows potentially even getting on up into Boston, Mass. So, and icing, of course, is still going to be an issue here going into the Carolina, southern parts of Virginia. So the two outcomes here produce vastly different solutions. And as I was just showing you, our American model really likes that southern solution. Meanwhile, the European model has been kind of holding steady with this northern solution. What I will say, though, is that this was the midday run of the American model with the southern track. I have new data coming in right now that American model just ran again, and it has a northern shift. Does that last? So this American model has been kind of waffling back and forth. There are a couple things that do make me a bit nervous here when we talk about the overall track, and I think let's bring that graphic back up. I have reason to believe that this could go either way, either option 1 or option 2. I really don't have a leaning at this point. Maybe slightly option 1, but What might allow for option 1 to occur is that these southern storms, and if you've lived here in southern Maryland long enough, you know the tale as old as time. These storms always trend north at the last minute. There are many snowstorms in the 12 and a half years I've been doing this that were supposed to bring heavy snow to Charlotte, North Carolina. One of the dudes I follow, he almost kind of like a weather mentor, Brad Penovich down there in Charlotte, North Carolina. The amount of times I've seen him talk about Charlotte's going to be getting snow, and then the storm shifts to the north, which then gives them only wintry mix. We know the story here quite well with those types of events. But those northern shifts are what allow for those heavy snows to sneak into southern Maryland. I have seen this happen plenty of times where these southern systems trend to the north, even by 50 miles at the last minute. And within 24 to 48 hours, oh my goodness, watch out. We saw this with the blizzard of 2016, literally 10 years ago, where DC was expected to be the bullseye, but then there was a last-minute shift kind of north and west, and that put that bullseye through the Shenandoah Valley, northern Maryland, going into southern Pennsylvania, even into New York. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, one of the biggest snowstorms they've seen, over 30 inches. New York getting near 30 inches. Meanwhile, southern Maryland, I wouldn't say we got, robbed of anything. Still 12 to 18 inches is still a decent snowstorm, but not as much as it could have been. So I could see option 1 verify if we see, that slight northern tick, which tend to happen with these systems, and definitely possible. I could see option 2 occur, though, because these high pressures to the north, can I bring those back up here quickly? Let's get that loaded back up. Let's go back a couple slides here. These high pressures to the north, they make me nervous because this is going to be a record-setting high pressure that is going to produce really cold air. This is a strong area of high pressure. That's what's going to send those temperatures down into the 20s for a prolonged period next week. I get concerned that there's going to be too much cold and dry air that's going to shift this storm well to the south. Is it as south as the earlier run of the America model shows, something like this? It's hard to say, but that high pressure does make me nervous as we kind of move things forward. So if I were to think here big picture, potentially I lean a little bit here towards this northern solution. I give it a slight 51-49 edge, though it is too early to say, and don't take that to the bank that JB's forecast and significant snows. But I could definitely see a solution in which this happens. Regardless of the solution, right now, I don't really see a solution that promotes like an ice storm in Southern Maryland. I think Southern Maryland might actually be sitting in a decent spot where even if this storm tracks down to the south, Southern Maryland still gets in a moderate snow. Who's going to complain about a 4-inch snow event? Maybe in comparison to like 16 inches, but I think Southern Maryland sits in a good spot. I think Northern Maryland, you're kind of getting nervous here. You're right there on the edge. I don't know if this is a storm for New England. What I could see occur if this northern solution happens is that this storm kind of meanders a little bit off the coast and allows for some extra precip to get thrown back into the New York City metro area. We've seen that happen before, so that's going to be something that we got to watch. And generally, if we look at the JB risk index, despite all the hype, folks, we are still about 5 days out from this. If this is a Sunday event, today is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days. The earliest I'm putting out a snowfall map with numbers on it is Thursday. We're still about 2 days away from that. Tomorrow, maybe we'll do a graphic that shows kind of like potential amounts, or I don't know, kind of leanings, but I'm hesitant to put any hard totals on any of this. And so we'll have to see. And lest I forget, my students today, I think finally really like it hit them that like their teacher is like this like pretty good weather forecaster that people follow. I think sometimes they think I lie to them about things, but like, oh my God, Mr. Bordash, you do this, you got to give us a shout out on the live stream. So I want to shout out my Team Voyage people. These 13 round signature marshals, there's no way, but here we are. So as you all can attest, what I'm going to do, maybe stick around here for a little bit, answer any questions. That's kind of the core of my presentation here. What I have seen people requesting, I think this might be the storm to finally do it, is a potential goldfish version of this. Where are we talking 2 big boxes of goldfish, 1 big box, one of those small little boxes, maybe a little guy, maybe just 1 goldfish, like kind of what are we looking at? I do think this will be a goldfish kind of ordeal though, and I think it's going to be a busy weekend here in the Storm Center, and not to mention my grad class is starting today because why not? Edgar wants to know if there's a northern trend, and I think what this might set me up nicely for is maybe to get into more of the sciencey part of the forecast as we start to see some people trickle out. I'm happy that they were able to join us for a little bit, and maybe start to get into some of the science. JB, what exactly is it that you're looking at? What do these models show? What are you watching? So Edgar, I want to talk about the potential northern trend here in just a moment. Kelly, could we get nothing Southern Maryland here? Kelly in Southern Maryland, I 100% think that could happen. There's a potential where we're really tracking here this area of low pressure that I've made look simple. It really is going to rely on a consolidation of energy to the south. I want to try to get this loaded up so I can really describe that, but do know as I work on that, yes, that is definitely a potential. I want to get upper air heights. There we go. I think you are what I want. Let's do a little 12. All right, so let's get here into the forecast a bit. Do I got my pen? Are you loaded up? There we go. All right. I want. What? Okay, that gives me a lot of things that I don't necessarily need. You might be able to work though. As I do this, sorry, let me get to some of y'all's questions before I get too far ahead of myself. Any chance this becomes a nor'easter? That is definitely a potential, Larry. I don't think it's too likely, but I mean, it's potential, and we can definitely talk about that here in just a moment. When does it start? Saturday morning, evening? Lori, maybe more like a Sunday. Still a bit early for timing, but our models in the very least are trending more towards a Sunday a bit. Taos and Sarah, you're right there kind of on the edge of what we're looking at. I don't want to get too in the weeds, though. I've learned over 12 and a half years, when I answer one question, and this happens in school too when I'm teaching, when I answer one specific question about what is like Timbuktu gonna see, it ushers in all of the comments of JP, what's this gonna see? What's this gonna see? I could have one comment asking about like La Plata and the next one asking about Waldorf, because they're so far apart. Catherine, I'll take a look at the American model here in just a moment. Saturday, I mean, I would look at some clowns. Nick, you have been around since the 2016 storm. There are a few names that I remember out of the 58,000 people that follow on Facebook. You are one of them. Happy to have you in, guy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at kind of what we got. So this is kind of into the weeds here of forecasting. This is a look at Friday. This puppy right here. Do you show up? You do show up. I can maybe mark it in blue. This right here is our cold area high pressure. In years past, you've probably heard this referred to as the polar vortex. It's a lobe of the polar vortex, but that is what allows for the cold air to come south. And then down here, where you see that like bright coloring, that represents our area of low pressure. Right now, I'm in the American model, and I want to show you what it was doing earlier and why it shows a southern solution. What this does, and as we go through, just to mark for y'all, because I know this map can get a bit crazy, Maryland sits right about there. All right, so just to anchor you here on what we're looking at. Friday, I want you to notice what this does as we begin to get into Saturday. You can notice that our area of high pressure, you see this like dark line here. This is kind of like the southern boundary of that area high pressure, that Arctic air. I'm hesitant to put like surface features on an upper air map, but just for simplicity. And you can almost see high pressure really bringing in the cold air right there. Our area of low pressure is kind of bundled out here towards Baja California. What the American model does, or at least what it did earlier, I guess this is 18Z. I think I want to show the 12Z though, because I think that really helps to tell my story a bit better with the southern solution. What I want you to notice is it doesn't really ever eject this southern piece of energy. Instead, what we're tracking then is this strung out mess that promotes overrunning, but it is much further to the south, much further. It's really this main area of energy, this bundle of bright coloring that never gets ejected eastward and really prevents this puppy from getting too strong. Meanwhile, if I show you the American model, Euro, and I'm going to use the 12Z, what I want you to notice here, you can see we have that same bundle of energy here off of Baja California. That's your primary storm energy. You have your lobe of the polar vortex here driving down cold air. Notice that it is further north. When I drew this line earlier, that puppy was through parts of Pennsylvania. Right now, that is through parts of New York. What this model allows to happen as we start to get here into Saturday, look at this. Before, that energy was bundled out here on the American model and never got ejected east, even as we headed into Monday. This is Saturday. Look at that. That puppy gets ejected quite quickly to the east, and it's hard to say it merges. It gets definitely a little bit more strung out, but what it begins to do is begins to like work in tandem with this upper low with the cold air. Putting those puppies together, I mean, if it happened much quicker, it would allow for a nor'easter to definitely kind of take place and develop a storm that would pop like right here and move up the coast. That I don't know if that's gonna happen. However, that is a key difference. And like again, this is where like my maps might be too simple. If we go back to that American model, just show you what we're looking at. I want that 12Z. I haven't really looked at the 18Z too closely yet. Look at that. Notice how that puppy just sits there. This is Friday, Saturday, going into Sunday. It is slowly moving, but by Monday, that puppy is still right here across portions of Mexico. Meanwhile, if I bring it back a little bit to that midday European that I like to use, Look at that. Yeah, it starts there on Saturday, but look how quickly by Monday, that same time it gets ejected all the way out. It's all the way out here. How quickly are you going to eject that energy into the big picture? Couple questions on the latest American model, and we can definitely take a look at that. Let's get here into the GFS. We can take a look at the surface precip and kind of see what it's doing. We're kind of looking at this for the first time together. I really want to kind of zoom in here to the east. So this is Thursday, not much. Friday, not much. Again, this is that little potential I was talking about. We got to monitor this, I think. It's a blip of energy, but there might be just enough with like a little bit of an onshore flow to produce a little bit of rain and snow Friday afternoon. This is 1 p.m. We'll watch it. But we can see, look at how, like, okay, that is definitely a bit further north than 12Z. Take a look at 12Z. Notice how your low pressure was like right here, and your northern extent of snow kind of sat right through here, through parts of southern Maryland, versus our latest run here. I mean, that's a sizable 50-mile jump north, and you can see what even 50 miles done. That puts snow up here in Pennsylvania. My students are very happy to see that. My Voyagers, so that's good. Again, if you like snow, which 13-year-olds do. And then that puppy just kind of scoots out to sea. Long-term pattern, I mean, I don't see anything else too pressing. I mean, following the storm, but that is what the American does. I want to see, do we have the latest Euro in? It looks like we do. Take a look at this, see what it is doing. Look at all that ice. That's ice down to the south across Arkansas. That's that pink. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah, come on. Like, that is classic, where that storm just tracks. And what this European is trying to do, notice this is Sunday. Look at Monday. It doesn't move too much. It's trying to become a little bit of a nor'easter as it interacts with that cold pocket aloft. Look at that. And that would then bring, look, you're bringing snow then through much of the Northeast. That is definitely much more of a widespread event. I mean, if we do, I want to look at snow totals per se, but precip type down here is going to be kind of your snow, this puppy here. As you put this forward, oh yeah, look at that. You got, oh, that went away, of course. Ooh, maybe. Anyway, you get the idea. You see that dark purple right through the mid-Atlantic. I mean, the European is definitely something you're going to be looking at if you are a Southern Maryland snow lover. Yeah, I mean, even if you're like a mid-Atlantic snow lover. Let's see what other questions we got. I just want to know a whole tirade there on what we were looking at. I'm so sorry. I just want to be able to use my JB said it's going to snow mug. Lauren, I think this is the storm. What time on Saturday? Anthony, it's a bit early to say. It's hard. It's very track dependent. However, I think this is more of a Sunday event than a Saturday. And actually, my hot take is I think most of Saturday will probably be fine. Larry, we take a look at the Canadian in just a moment. Danielle, Leslie may not get anything. Danielle, that is definitely in the realm of possibility to not see that Leslie and Southern Maryland gets missed entirely, especially if we see this Southern solution verify. But I have a lot of models that show the exact opposite of this. It's just something a little bit closer to this. Let's see, watching from the plate. I love it. I'm about to say, Catherine Ward, you're another name that I am used to seeing on our Facebook Lives and seeing on Twitter. Was a bit different, but we are happy to have you. This weather duration follow the cold weather. Yes, it's going to catch a lot of people off guard, I think, Arthur. We are looking at very cold air kind of settling in. Thank you, John. I appreciate the kind words about the information. I love getting into the details. Kelly wants to know which model is more consistent. Lately, it's been the European. With this storm in particular, our American model has been waffling back and forth. One run it's to the south, it looks like this. One run it's to the north, it looks like this. Then it goes to the south, it looks like this. European has definitely been the most steady. So that's an encouraging news if you're a Mid-Atlantic snow lover. Jane, older folks don't like this. Jane, as I now approach 30, which is weird because I started this business when I was 16. I've been doing this for almost half my life. That's wild to think about. But as I approach 30, yes, my views on snow are being. I like snow for the bare minimum. This sounds very superficial. I like the fact that it brings shady weather attention and brings me money. That is the only reason I like snow. I do not like shoveling it. I do not like driving in it. Ugh. All right. Would a nor'easter bring enough wraparound energy from the ocean to bring sleet and freezing rain closer to southern Maryland? Larry, that definitely would be a worry. If this were able to kind of stall off, y'all are going to have me go back into my nerdy stuff, which I'm not angry about by any stretch of the imagination. If I can come over here to the European model, let's get you back in. No, not you. We established you don't work, but you do. Actually, real quick, I want to show you. Look at these temperatures, okay? Thursday, quick warm up, and then look at all of that cold air just dives. This is Saturday morning, 10 in DC, 14 Leonardtown, and then we kind of warm up during the day. Look at that, and then cold air just waiting to come back and move. And if this went out a little further, you'd really see the cold air intrusion. But what I want to show you, upper air heights, do a little 500. What I want you to notice, this is what we would call your confluence. This is kind of almost your southern extent of like your polar vortex lobe. It's right there. Think of this almost in football, and it's funny right now in the classroom teaching about the Revolutionary War, and we're doing so through the lens of a football game, the Americans versus the British. Very interesting. So I'm kind of in this mindset already, but if you think of this confluence just as like your defensive line, nobody, at least in theory, should be able to get past your D-line, right? Maybe not if we're looking at the D-line of the Washington team, but you know. But there's your cold air. This is Friday. Definitely beginning to settle in, and then look out to the west. Here comes all of that like spotty energy. All of that is with your low pressure, with that overrunning. That's what allows like a little bit of feedback to start. And as we play this through, you can see, as we get into Monday, what I want you to notice, as these dudes here, there's your like main piece of energy. Actually, maybe a low pressure isn't the best spot there. But if this is your main piece of energy, right? And this is your cold pocket aloft, what I want you to notice, if we were to draw a line to how this looks, and maybe doing a United States view might be more beneficial. What I want you to notice is kind of the orientation here. If we take just like that, this is what we would call a neutral tilt, kind of right here. If you took like the mean of where this trough is, look right in the middle and draw a line. How is it stationed? Sometimes you get a neutral tilt like this. Sometimes what you get is a very positive tilt. And what a positive tilt would do is it literally just kicks a storm right out to sea. It does not allow for a nor'easter to really form. But what you can start to get, and this model tries to do it a little bit, I don't know, I think it goes out maybe a little, potentially as far, is not a textbook situation. What you can do, notice how it kind of goes up like this now? That's what we call a negative tilt. When like the jet stream axis starts to tilt a little bit to the back, what that allows to happen, you pop a low pressure right here, and if I can zoom back into like an East Coast view, regions east, what this could allow to happen, this is your jet stream, with again, this is barely a negative tilt, but stay with me in the thought experiment. You pop your low pressure right there. What that would allow is you get a whole bunch of Atlantic moisture kicking back into the coast, and that can really produce big snows through this zone. Coastal zones, you struggle because, well, the Atlantic Ocean isn't exactly 32 degrees. So that can help to promote a little bit more mixing. But yeah, so Larry, that is a long-winded version of your answer. Let's see, what else do we got? Southern Maryland, many areas past due for a big storm. I think the last big one was probably January 2022 with that surprise like 12-inch snowstorm. Yeah, Dallas definitely seen a couple of trends north lately on some of these models. Definitely the American as well, but it kind of It's been kind of waffling back and forth. You think that this storm could get far enough north? Susie, I'm not concerned that this gets so far north that it's going to be an icing event, only because these high pressures are really going to limit how far north this storm comes. If these weren't there or were further north, I would be worried about that. But these are like, it's just forcing everything to the south. So there's going to be a northern extent to which this storm can come. I think even with the northernmost solution, I mean, maybe in the most northern solution, Southern Maryland can get in on a little bit of sleet, which is definitely a potential, but I think that is like the worst case scenario for a Southern Maryland snow lover. During late, are we getting the storm? Okay, we're getting right to the point. Saturday looks kind of, kind of quiet. I think a waiting at 11:30 Saturday is fine. Storm definitely still kind of on the books here for Sunday, so we'll see how it kind of plays out. So Brenna, you want to know about places like Frederick and Hagerstown. Brenna, honestly, at this point, and this sounds not demeaning, but like I'm dismissing your comment. But at this rate, at this point, it doesn't really matter. Like Washington is a really good point to look at when we're so big picture right now. It's almost like you're planning out next week's grocery order. You don't necessarily know that your family is definitely going to be in the mood for spaghetti next Wednesday. You might know, though, that you would like to cook spaghetti at some point. At least this happened at my house. I don't know. My mom was kind of indecisive on what was getting cooked on which day. That's the way I think about it, right? Right now, we would love to know what's going to happen in Frederick, in Hagerstown, in York, PA, in Leonardtown, in Culpeper, in Salisbury, Georgetown, Philly. We would love to know those individual things. Right now, though, we just got to speak kind of in generalities because at some point we'll get to that level. Right now, we're a bit too far out to really. There would be no meaningful difference I could give you between Frederick, Hagerstown, and Washington and Leonardtown. Kathy wants to know how much in St. Leonard. I wish I knew. Sarah wants to know if I bought goldfish yet. Not yet. That will be a Thursday buy. Now, John asking about Chesapeake will definitely be like a difference. Chesapeake down in southeast Virginia, hundreds of miles away. Northern solution, you're looking at an icy mix down that way, buddy. But if we are looking at a southern solution, you're kind of in the bullseye for a little bit of snow. But I think that about gets us to where we need to be. We've been going for a good 40 minutes at this point. I would imagine we're doing live streams every day the rest of this week. I will have a shorter recorded version of this posted to social, so people that didn't watch or you missed the first 35 minutes of this, you want to know kind of what's happening, I can get you updated there. And we'll kind of talk through everything. You're going to want to stay tuned to JB Weather for the latest information. If for nothing else, my students need to continue to realize that the JB Weather clout is real. But big picture, there's a lot going on. I mean, even if you were to take a look at your phone right now to see what it's forecasting, up here for Sunday, my Apple Weather app is forecasting, I don't know if you can actually see that, 13 to 16 inches up here in PA. If we were to take a look at Solomon's, I mean, that's where I grew up and where I kind of keep tabs on things. It has 1 to 3 inches Saturday, and on Sunday it has 10 to 12 inches with half an inch of ice, and I think it has stuff for Monday as well now too. More wintry mix. So there's a lot of information out there. Your Apple Weather app is trash. It is raw model data. At the very least, weather forecaster like me can make pretty maps for you. But in all seriousness, you're going to want to stay tuned to JB Weather for the latest information. I'll be diving into all of the model data, giving you the latest updates as I have them. I would expect a first call probably Thursday morning, afternoon. I don't know. We'll see how early I wake up before school. And we'll be here with you, giving you all the latest details. Please do not buy in slowly onto a northern track. Please note that either track could happen. We are on guard for any and all potentials, and if this were to go south, you're not going to say that JB Weather was wrong because I told you it could happen. All right, I think that's about everything I got for you today. Have a nice and safe one. Please keep it tuned to JB Weather for the latest information on Instagram, Facebook, X/Twitter, YouTube, and the website. The website's a really good home base for you to get all your information. JBweather.net. And also check out our sponsors. They help to pay my bills, so please. You got Sonder Fitness, you got Chesapeake Orthodontist, Cedar Point Federal Credit Union, William Richmond Inc., Siding, Roofing, and Windows. All of these are really great businesses that I definitely kind of give my seal of approval to. So, but I think that's everything I got for you right now. Again, keep it tuned here to JB Weather for the latest information. I'll continue to keep you updated.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.com.